Barakada Yahweh, Barakada Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson, and I'm going to start it off in the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 1, and the header reads, Edom will be humbled, and this whole chapter is dedicated to the judgment of you Edomites, who are known as the so-called white people today, Americans, British, Russians, Europeans, and those small hats over in the Holy Land. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. And that ambassador is the men of the Lord, prophets of the Most High, out on the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up video epistles like this, breaking down the scriptures correctly, telling you heathens, especially you Edomites, who you are and what your judgment is. And an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. And hey, these different heathen nations are rising up against you Edomites, especially in the West, primarily America and, Israel, the 1948ers, because they're sick and tired of your economic and military warfare, abusing and exploiting, these different nations out here. Verse 2, Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Again, your reputation being made small, and these nations looking at you as the problem that you are. Thou art greatly despised. And I opened up the video with these verses to preface a quick clip from Middle Nation's YouTube channel titled, America's Influence is Retreating. And hey, this is just a Obadiah 1 verse 2 in video form. Behold, I have made thee small amongst the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. Like I've been saying, these different nations are starting to look for alternatives out of that Western American system. Hence why you have the BRICS gaining more and more traction. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
Israel is and always has been a failure. And it is and always has been a fake country, a fake power, a fake success. They have always lied about their competence, lied about their capabilities, lied about their skills, lied about their courage, and lied about everything else. They've only existed because they had a function for the American power structure. But now, even the American power structure itself is rapidly losing its own functionality within the context of a national private sector power and the OCGFC. Look, America,
like I just said, the two main, culprits that everybody's starting to blame is America and the 1948er state. And as it said in Obadiah 1 verse 1, Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Besides these nations moving away economically from the West, hey, they're preparing militarily. You've got that situation between Iran and Israel. You've got China and America having their issues, and Russia and America having their issues. And it's ultimately going to culminate in World War III and nuclear missiles being shot to the ends of the earth.
America's share of the global GDP has drastically declined. I don't know if you've been keeping up. The world is not the way you think it is. In 1960, America's economy represented 40% of all global GDP, almost half. Well, today, in 2024, it's 15%. The BRICS nations have a greater share in global GDP than the G7. America spends more money on military funding than any other country, but a huge percentage of that is due to overcharging, fraud, wasteful spending, or just money that's unaccounted for. Their spending does not equate to military power. If you subtract from their military budget all of the money that is literally just fraudulent, then America spends less on its military than China does.
And that's another thing. Internally, America, is collapsing. The leaders, politicians, these corporate heads, they're just making horrific decisions left and right. What do we have? Open borders, billions of dollars being sent to go fight losing wars in Ukraine and these other proxy wars, and inflation, which is going to turn to hyperinflation. The American citizen just getting crushed under the weight of everything. I'm going to jump to Isaiah chapter 19. I'm going to read verses 11 to 14. Surely the princes of Zoan are fools. The counsel of the wise counselors of Pharaoh is become brutish. And when you read Revelation 11, verse 8, America is known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, and it's also known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures. But as it says, the counsel of the wise counselors of Pharaoh is become brutish. And when you go into that word brutish in the Strongs, it means, stupid, dumb, which we can see with these horrific decisions that these politicians and heads of state in America are making. Here it is, America is threatening war and sanctions on these different countries because they believe that the dollar is, going to remain the world reserve currency. But you've got these different nations de-dollarizing, moving away from it, which when countries send their dollars back to America or don't buy those U.S. Treasury bonds, that lowers the confidence in the U.S. dollar and lowers its value, which makes things that much more expensive for citizens over here in America. And, those sanctions do the exact same thing. You think that by, sanctions and tariffs, you got Donald Trump talking about putting sanctions on these other sanctions and tariffs, in order for you to send these your goods, say from China into America, you've got to spend that much more. Well, what's that going to do? That's going to, cause those manufacturers to put that cost on the consumer to make things that much more expensive. How say ye unto Pharaoh, I am the son of the wise, the son of ancient kings. Where are they? Where are thy wise men? And let them tell thee now, let them know what Yahweh of hosts hath purposed upon Egypt. The princes of Zoan are become fools. The princes of Noph are deceived. They have also seduced Egypt, even they that are the stay of the tribes thereof. Verse 14. Yahweh hath mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. Every decision America is making right now is just, blowing back up in their faces. Sanctions aren't working because you've got nations, again, de-dollarizing and moving towards the BRICS. America is sending billions of dollars over to that losing war in Ukraine, which is just further, inflating the dollar and crushing the U.S. consumer. Economic conditions are deteriorating. The list goes on and on.
Not to mention China's standing army and auxiliary forces are roughly double that of America's. Despite the hype, America's global military presence is half today what it was 20 years ago. Even their soft power is nothing like what it used to be. De-dollarization is rapidly increasing. Foreign purchases of U.S. Treasury securities have dropped by around 20%, which means people are losing confidence around the world in the American economy. Even fewer and fewer foreign students are choosing to study in the United States. Their cultural influence has dropped below Japan. Even American brands are finding it harder and harder to penetrate global South markets. Their reputation and their prestige has absolutely tanked by any metric that you can think.
Again, behold, I have made thee small amongst the heathen. Thou art greatly despised.
The United States is declining as a world power. Their relative influence is in retreat, and they're becoming increasingly isolated. Okay, all of this has serious ramifications for Israel, and I think that they have either not fully comprehended that, or else they are in denial about it. But no matter how you look at it, Zionism has no future. And in fact, everything that they're doing to try to secure their future is actually only ensuring.
That's it with that clip. But hey, just another example that Esau Edom's, time of rulership, this little season in Revelation chapter 20, which began with the Renaissance or the rebirth, is coming to an end. This is Isaiah chapter 33, verse 1. Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou was not spoiled. America waging all these foreign wars for resources and to set up puppet governments. But what? America has remained untouched, for all this time. And dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee, making all these treaties and alliances just to break them and backstab their so-called allies later on down the line when America got what it wanted, or what? The relationship no longer benefited them. You have that devil, Henry Kissinger, who was full of just perfect quotes to describe, America and Esau's nature as a whole. He said, to be America's enemy is dangerous, but to be America's friend is deadly. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. Hey, America's, economic and military power, which they used to, use as an iron fist to dictate to the world, is starting to what? Decline. So what? These other nations are starting to turn against you. They're starting to deal treacherously with you. And hey, they're eventually going to go to war against you, and America will be touched. You've got these open borders due to that brutish and stupid council by the the leaders of Egypt. Those open borders allowing anybody and everybody in, which, you've got sleeper cells and soldiers from these different countries coming in. And then, like I said earlier, eventually during World War III, nuclear missiles are going to be shot to the ends of the earth. And who do you think is going to be target number one? The United States of America, which is going to be completely wiped off the face of the earth. But now I'm going to close it out in Habakkuk chapter 2. I'm going to start at verse 5. Yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine. And that's talking about the different ideologies and policies that Esau pushes, especially through America, such as what? Democracy, capitalism, feminism, the alphabet lifestyle, etc., etc. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. Who does that sound like? The ultimate colonizer, Esau Edom. I think it's around 800 or so bases that the U.S. military has all across the world, going into these different countries, overthrowing sovereign leaders and setting up puppets to allow U.S. corporate interests in there, which don't benefit the people at all. Who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. On the one hand, setting up these central banks in these different countries so that they're locked to the IMF and the US dollar. And then on another hand, ultimately these elites like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers getting everybody primed and prepared to be under that NW0, their great RESET, with one currency, one religion, one ideology. Verse 6, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him? Behold, I have made thee small amongst the heathen, thou art greatly despised. And say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And what do we just hear about in this clip? Let's rewind it back a little bit.
American economy. Even fewer and fewer foreign students are choosing to study in the United States. Presence is half today what it was 20 years ago. Even their soft power is nothing like what it used to be. De-dollarization is rapidly increasing. Foreign purchases of U.S. Treasury securities have dropped by around 20%, which means people are losing confidence
Which those treasuries are just what? These different countries buying U.S. debt, which keep that in
around the
mind.
world in the American economy. Even fewer and fewer foreign students are choosing to study in the United States. Their cultural influence has dropped below Japan. Even American brands are finding it harder and harder to penetrate global South markets. Their reputation and their prestige has absolutely tanked. By any metric that you can think of, the United States is declining as a world power. Their relative influence is in retreat, and they're becoming increasingly isolated. Okay, all of this has
Shall not these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? Hey, these different nations out here, de-dollarizing, not wanting to deal with these U.S. companies and brands, and, foreign students not choosing America as their first choice to come and learn and study in. These nations are getting sick of what? The sanctions, the wars, and just America's bullying and dictating that brutish nature to these other nations. And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. And let's get that word clay in the Strongs. It's H5671, aptite, which in the outline of biblical usage says weight of pledges, heavy debts, which, like I just said, when these countries buy those U.S. Treasury bonds, they're pretty much just buying U.S. debt, which keeps, prices of things here low. But when these nations de-dollarize and, sell off those treasury debts, which send those dollars back to America, what does that cause? Inflation and the prices to go up over here, which, you got a lot of these U.S. citizens burdened with many debts as well from, car loan debts, college debts, housing debts. The list goes on and on. They call this nation a debtor nation for a reason. Verse 7, Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Back in Obadiah 1 verse 1, Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. These different nations are, rising up against America economically right now. And what it's ultimately going to lead to is them rising up against her militarily. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.